There is a controversy brewing about the real value of digital currencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the question is, are we looking at an incarnation of the Dutch tulip mania of the 17th century, or are we looking at a technology that will revolutionize the concept of money? My name is Jim Connor. Welcome to Game Changers Silicon Valley. In this segment, we'll discuss the emergence of digital currencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, as well as the underlying blockchain technology. My guests are Eric Lamison-White and Ted Lampher. Both are co-founders of the Pareto Network, which is designed to provide access to information using a digital currency. Eric and Ted, welcome to the show. Let me start with you, Eric, to give us maybe an overview of the concepts of blockchain technology.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. Blockchain technology is primarily a ledger. It's a ledger technology where the confidence in the contents of the ledger are secured in a different way. And this seemingly mundane tweak to an older concept can just revolutionarily change the whole infrastructure built on top of it.
So when you say ledger, I think of accounting and I think of spreadsheets. And of course, in things like Google Docs and databases, we see a database that looks like a ledger, correct? Is that essentially what this is?
That is, the analogy works. There are limitations to the analogy, but ultimately you can sort entries in a way you're very familiar with, and a lot of services do this exact thing. They're called block explorers.
I see. Let me go on to the next concept of blockchain, which is it's a distributed database. Now, we met earlier, and you showed me a link which I'll show on the screen that showed worldwide all these computers that are part of the blockchain distributed network, and there must have been, I think there were 7,000. Is that right?
At least.
At least, and half of them have to be up. Can you give us a little insight into that?
Sure. So the blockchain as a concept requires participants to help it propagate, and the more participants that are helping it, the harder it is to alter the data in the blockchain. And so it kind of turns into this amorphous entity that just keeps expanding because new computers or new participants in the network want a benefit from the blockchain network. And that's usually in the form of a currency. The blockchain pays the computers that help it stay secure.
And Ted, let me come over to you then. As I understand it, the key is, and I went and started to look because I signed up for Bitcoin and Ethereum, you create a wallet, right? An electronic wallet to hold your currencies, hold your Bitcoins, I should say,
yes.
or whatever the currency is. Maybe you can give us a little explanation of how many currencies are there and how do you judge which ones are good and worthwhile?
Sure. Well, and that's a great question. And by the way, a wallet is just a metaphor. It may be also viewed as a keychain that holds your keys or your access codes to your currencies. But today as of today, there's almost 1,200 currencies that you can buy and sell. And a year ago, that was a fraction of that. But these currencies are coming out every week, and they do all kinds of different functionalities. Broadly speaking, you can divide them into currencies which are a store of value or used for payments, and then currencies which have other functions or uses. We call them utility currencies or better, utility tokens that give the user access to some resource, or they are the fuel for some protocol within networking applications.
So Eric, you both are co-founders of the Pareto Network, and you, as I understand it now, have a blockchain technology that will essentially capture information or allow information to be accessed. And to access it, someone will buy your tokens, your digital currency, and then pay the provider of that information. Is that
exactly? Okay. Yeah. So once again, you see how this technology is best suited for creating a market and having market dynamics between participants to provide value.
What kind of information will be available?
Well, the Pareto Network is geared towards financial information, but financial information that can be acted on very soon. So, Pareto Network changes the incentive models for financial information such that the sooner you can benefit the most people, the greater your reward from the network will be.
Is that because each person contributes towards your reward?
That's correct. So aside from the contributor's perspective, the users of the Pareto Network are ranked in a leaderboard, and your ranking in the leaderboard is based on your level of activity in the network. So the more, for example, you pay a content provider, the higher in the leaderboard you get. And this is important because the higher on the leaderboard you are, the sooner you get newly released information.
Can you give me an example, a real-world example of what kind of information might be available? Probably not insider trading information, but what would be something that would be viable in this model?
The Pareto Network is geared towards digital currencies instead of, for example, the securities or equities markets. But one example would be a change in the supply and demand of one of these digital currencies and being able to demonstrate to someone how that changes. Digital currencies function very similarly to commodities in many cases. There's a fixed supply, and the exchange rate is based on how useful it is to somebody at a given time. And if you can reveal those changes to someone, then you might have people that would want to reposition their own portfolios or try to speculate on this change in supply and demand.
So information about the commodities market, futures market, could be a viable way to go.
Could also be very viable. Yeah. And I'd like people to think of innovative use cases for the Pareto Network.
So, Ted, now your company's going to roll out your tokens and your blockchain. Is this all at one time? You're going to do this end of November, I believe?
Yes, well, we have what's called a pre-sale of our token, and then in the end of November, we'll have a public sale of our token.
What's the difference?
Well, the pre-sale participants are given a discounted price, and there are usually some minimum purchase requirements around that.
So there's been some interesting publicity lately about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I do notice that there's a difference. There's a split. I think Korea and China have outlawed all these digital currencies across the board. Do you have any opinion about that?
I do. It's a very nuanced topic, especially on a country-by-country basis. I would say digital currencies are still very active in those countries and aren't completely outlawed. Regarding the opinions from financial leaders in legacy markets, what you have is a gradient of opinions that you would see in any market. And these optimistic or bearish outlooks all form the aggregate price and the aggregate opinions, and it's no different. I wouldn't try to point fingers at any one outspoken character.
Right. It's just a matter of, it's a brand new concept. There will be some missteps probably along the way, but there's going to be great benefits also.
And I would add that it's evolving so rapidly. Even in, for example, the market cap of all the digital currencies has gone from, I think it was about $7 billion on January 1st. Today it's about $170 billion. So you've had a tremendous influx of new capital.
Let me interrupt you. You said from $7 billion to $170 billion?
That's correct, yes.
Over what time period?
Well, in the last 9 months or so.
That's an amazing valuation jump.
And it's believed that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of new cryptocurrency hedge funds being formed, and there may be another $300 billion to $1 trillion of capital that is being positioned to come into cryptocurrency. So as you can see, this is why there's so much interest in it, and actually this is one reason why we're creating the Pareto Network, is because investors need better information about all these thousands of new currencies.
So let me make an assumption, you guys tell me if I'm right or wrong, that as long as the currency is being used to access something of value, whether it's goods or services or information, there's going to be support for it.
Yes.
If that currency should fail to be recognized as accessing value for any reason, it will probably go up in smoke.
I would like to add to something about that.
Okay.
So when a company is not providing value, it eventually goes bankrupt, and its shares can never be really redeemed for anything. Blockchains, on the other hand, never cease. Blocks can stop being found, the currencies can stop being traded, but there's nothing that prevents somebody else from taking the baton for a failed project and turning those cryptographic hashes, the tokens, into something of value or giving it utility in the future.
That's interesting. So I could, or a group could look at a failed, if I may use the word failed, crypto or digital currency,
Okay.
and decide to rebuild it through a new series of through a new value being provided on the blockchain. Is that?
That's correct, and that's actually something one of my previous companies has done and still does.
Ted, I want to ask, the thing that really sort of got me thinking and engaged in it was that there are exchanges now to essentially liquidate your tokens, your digital wallet of anything, whether
Sure.
it's are those mainly focused, like many things are, like in illiquid or private securities, just the top 2 or 3, or is it deeper?
Well, as I said, there's probably 1,000 tokens that you can now buy and sell. And many exchanges, many of these tokens can be traded on multiple exchanges. So that's here to stay, and it's becoming easier and easier to do these sorts of transactions.
So Eric, how did you, just about your personal, how did you get to this area? I mean, you're in a remarkable spot, both of you are, but how did you arrive here?
I was actually working on a mobile payments app for a development agency they were just a contracting firm I was working for. We encountered a lot of regulatory issues bringing this out. Mobile applications were new, peer-to-peer payments seemed very intuitive, but there was a high barrier of entry. At the same time, a Bitcoin wallet for Android phones came out, did exactly what we were trying to do, and it was open source. They weren't even interested in protecting their intellectual property. And it just really made me try to understand what was actually going on here, who did this, what is it? And I probably spent 2 additional years just researching what, why, how, before I could really jump into the blockchain space and really understand it.
Mm-hmm. And when did you form the Pareto Network?
The Pareto Network was formed early this year, early 2017, and we're just pulling together all the pieces to bring this tool to the markets.
Okay. Ted, what was your background?
Well, I've always been in technology businesses of different sorts. Several years ago, I was working in cybersecurity and payments, and blockchain came to my attention as a new technology which could address some of the security issues as well as reduce the cost of payments. And also it can bring payments and financial inclusion to probably a couple billion people in the world through what's called micropayments. And so this led me to be quite intrigued with it, and I began studying it and looked at a lot of different use cases around payments, rewards, ticketing, etc. After I met Eric, I realized that the Pareto idea was really one that was very timely and I thought a very powerful one. So that's how I got here.
Eric and Ted, I really want to thank you for your time, for coming in. You guys have been great. You've given me a lot of insights. I have to admit, I'm quite excited by the technology. After you explained all the way through it, and I have to say that the viewers at home, it's not the easiest thing to grasp in the first conversation or two, but if you dig a little deeper, I found it has legs, mainly because there is a liquidity option at the end of the day. You can get out. I don't know what the price will be, but you can get out. You can cash out your tokens. So I want to thank both of you for coming in. Eric, is there contact information for either or both of you?
Well, yes, we can be reached through our website, Pareto.network, and we are also available on social media and LinkedIn. We're very transparent about that.
Once again, thanks so much for coming in. I look forward to hearing from you guys in the future, and I wish you every success going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Jim Connor. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Game Changers Silicon Valley. Each week, we'll address an area of innovation that may emerge as a game changer of tomorrow. You can watch and subscribe to the shows at gamechangers.tv. We look forward to your continued interest and participation in upcoming shows.